Welcome back to Shaman Radio. I'm Jon Rasmussen, and my special guest today is Jill Dreyer. And Jill is an artist and a musician whose projects include paintings, murals, and installation for the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. She's also done work for Starbucks, Airbnb, Kiva.org, and many other brands and companies. Her signature art style is modern, bright, colorful, dream-inspired, and borders on the shamanic. The culmination of her beliefs lives in a musical story she composed called Dream. It's a rock fable for humanity to remind us who we are and how we're all connected by our dream and soul journeys. And you can find her work at jilldryer.com, JILLDRYER.com, and I'll post that link. And hi, Jill. Thank you for coming.
It's great to be here.
It's so great to have you here. You are honestly one of the most multi-talented people I know, and I really mean that. And I got to tell the audience a story really quick because this kind of blew my mind. We were in the jungle. Let's see. We started on a trip to Peru. I believe it was around 2014, if I'm not mistaken.
2012. Yeah.
2012. Oh my gosh. Okay. So we went on this trip to Peru, which I was taking people on, and we would go through the healing journey by starting in the jungle and shedding stuff like the serpent, and then we'd go into the sacred sites in the sacred valley and all over the place. We kind of run through the medicine wheel. It was a really wonderful thing, and we were in the jungle. It was very early on in the trip, right? And we were doing the ayahuasca ceremony with Don Panduro, and I have a whole podcast what that's all about, but we started with that, and that's a big deal, and it's intense. And it was, one evening, and it was, this 4-hour long, intense journey. And you'll have your own probably story about that, but it's a big deal. Anyway, and at the end of the thing, this Don Panduro, he was such a kick, rest his soul. He passed away a few years ago, but he had these beautiful icaros, wonderful singing and whistling, and it really made the journey powerful and special. And at the end, he'd kind of start goofing around and say, "Hey, anybody want to sing, like row your boat," like anything, right? Because as far as I knew, none of us could sing worth a darn, And I didn't know you were a singer-songwriter at the time, because all of a sudden, and it's pitch black, and all of a sudden, there's this absolutely angelic voice. And I couldn't figure out who it was because I didn't know you sang, and you were singing, people get ready. There's a train, and I was just like mesmerized and just taken to heaven with your voice and the song. And then later, of course, found out that was you. And I'm like, oh my God, like you, what? Like, that was incredible. So, and then for the rest of the trip, you did these amazing, we didn't even know it, I don't think any of us per se, but you had your notepad and you were doing your wonderful artistic drawings that related to each of us in the group. And then I believe you wrote, sort of a poem or something about each one of us. And I've got those on my blog, but I literally have posted a lot of these things. So that's my special story about you. And you've been just going off ever since on all your creativity and beautiful things like plays. Tell me how that all
I have
started.
to hilariously, in the experience. So when we were in ceremony, like the way that I remember it in terms of singing is that I thought I was whispering to myself because I just thought I was just sort of having this little hum along, and then you heard it as like this big voice happening. But in my mind, I was just barely sort of singing to myself when he said, "Whoever wants to sing." And so I had no idea anyone heard that until later. So that's kind of funny. But the only thing that struck me yesterday thinking about that story is that I remember feeling like in ayahuasca ceremony, like a train had literally gone through my veins. And then hilariously, the song that comes out of me is People Get Ready, which is all about sort of the Underground Railroad and, making this passage. And it's not a song that was necessarily in my rhetoric, or it's a very popular song. It just wasn't like my song that I would typically sing, and it just came pouring out. And so that's fascinating in itself.
Oh, I mean, it was divine. Absolutely. I was like, this is not like this was some angel came down and started singing to us.
Well, like, and I think it all points toward, I saw this talk with Cindy Lauper online, and I'm not like a huge Cindy Lauper fan, but I love grown-up Cindy Lauper, because there she was talking about just being a creative channel, and how it's not up to you to judge whether the work that you do is great or not, and who really cares what anyone thinks. But if you can just keep yourself open to the creative channel and just keep making things, you'll eventually strike some sort of gold for yourself, whatever that is. That doesn't mean, fame and fortune. That just means you might find that the most beautiful chord or the most beautiful painting that you didn't know existed. You can't find it unless your channel's open. And then once that channel's open, it just flows. And I felt like that's exactly what the expression was like. As we were going through Peru and I was drawing all of these things that came to my mind, once we had the ceremony, the channel was blown open, and it just, for me, kind of flowed the whole trip of I just stopped doing what I would normally do and just drew and wrote down whatever came spilling out. And sometimes it was a poem, and sometimes it was a drawing. So I find it really fascinating that you can sometimes tap in more than others, like to that river of creativity and consciousness, and it's all intertwined.
Yeah, it's totally shamanic. In all of my sessions, all of my teachings, our teachers, the Caro, they talk about art, music, poetry, movement, dance, song, sound. This is the mythic. This is what taps into that deeper subconscious part of us that is more powerful than anything we could do with our minds. And that's what it's all about. And, you don't even have to be talented or gifted in it at all. I have all my clients do homework that involves some artistic expression like that, because it integrates everything we do on the soul level and matches it, and then helps manifest. I mean, nothing's more powerful to help people manifest than art, music, poetry, song. And this is ever since I've known you, I've seen this as like the greatest gift to the world, that you can inspire that in people, especially children, right? Because you did this play. Tell me about that again. This is
So the dream show is literally all about the journey that we walk on the planet, and how do you navigate the road of life with some sort of intent and grace. But my main point for the kids is just, you've got to take the hands on the steering wheel. This is your journey. This is the message to everyone. If you're going to go on the road of life, it's a great grand adventure, and you've got to drive that ship. Otherwise, you're just going to get batted around like a ping pong ball. So in doing the show with students, I did it with a high school in about 2014. Really, it was a learning experience for all of us to talk about what we thought we wanted to do and where we thought we might be going. And just remember, along the way, it's this big, rocky, hilarious, all over the place highway. But if you keep in mind a couple of the, insights from the show about just, bringing yourself back to the ground. And there's one song that's just literally called Try Everything. And it's this dog who like lives by his gut, like he'll eat anything. And he's this soulful junkyard dog. But he's a good lesson, because for him, he just is like a hummingbird, sipping from the sweetness of life. He'll try anything. And it's beautiful. Like when you get really stuck and you're one of those people that's just like, well, I can't because of this, and there's no way because of that. And it's just a sort of a reminder to loosen up and just let yourself try stuff, be dumb, look foolish doing it, just try it. And then, it gets easier, the more you flex the muscle of trying something. And it's just like art too, like any kind of creation, you have to you have to make a lot of really bad songs or a lot of really bad art before you get to the some where maybe the channel's open and you get a good one. But first, you just have to keep making stuff, and you can't be ashamed of like, wow, this is terrible. Look what I just made.
Yeah.
I drew this hideous thing.
It
But
reminds me of every great accomplishment that all the great, like, I mean, I right off the top of my head, like a Steve Jobs, Apple computer, Silicon Valley, move fast and break things, right? This whole concept of just keep, you'll do 100 things that don't go anywhere. And then that 101 thing is like everything. And it's
right.
the best way to live, right? Just keep trying, keep failing.
It's like you're on a record. It's like you're on a spiral and you keep passing the same posts over and over and over, but you get better each time. And the more that you keep walking, maybe you have to learn the lesson 100 times. I know I am like the kind of person that has to learn the hard way. I've realized that about myself.
Right.
I'm not going to learn it the first time.
I think everyone's that way. I don't think there's any literal overnight success. You know that saying, it took 10 years to become an overnight success.
Yeah.
I mean, so it's just people. I love that you're especially helping children. And I know you have a little boy, and he's probably not so little anymore, but back then he was
taller
very
than
little.
me now, but yeah.
And I remember you going, I got him goofing around with a guitar and this and that. Now he's like a prodigy, the guy, and it's like, again, I think for a lot of listeners who are going, yeah, but I don't do art. I don't know. I don't have any skills. I don't have any. And it's like, that's fine. That's not the point. Like, you're not trying to become, Elvis. You're not trying to become a famous artist. You're just using it to sort of build out your being, right? To develop your soul, to develop character, to really help you accomplish anything else in life. I mean, there are, again, like world leaders and business leaders and all kinds of people, and you realize, they play guitar on the side, or they used to do this, or they paint, or they do, and it's like that. I think that's critical. I think people need this. It reminds me of gosh, now I can't think of his name, but I'll think of it. Robert Redford. And, I went to see one of his talks, and he made this point, and I believe this all along too, but it's like, there has to be an artist at every table, meaning every policy body, every decision-making thing. You got to have someone there who's connected to this mythic, creative core principle of nature to help make decisions that are in align with creation, with nature, with anything that are good decisions.
I mean, there's two things, because I feel like on the one hand, it's also just a quicker access to joy than anything else. Like, if you find and tap into your own creativity, I think your happiness catapults, whether or not your goal in life is to be the happiest person. I just think you can quickly access this like soul joy that you can't get anywhere else. And at least for me, I know it's a great feeling to just lose myself in art or music and just be doing something that I truly love. And not for the, I don't even put half the things out into the world that I make. It's just, I'm making and I love it.
Yeah.
And I like it when other people do things like that. Some people love, just taking a class just of anything, try ceramics or try like painting with somebody. It doesn't matter if the product that you make is so.
Or singing in the shower, I literally walk around the house all day.
That's my number one audience.
And I'll make up songs about anything, and they're goofy and they're silly. Oftentimes they're just coming out, and I use some melody from some song, but I make up the words, and my family just cracks up, like they love, like, talk about joy, right? It's like, just makes things funny and fun. It's like you're living in a musical.
And it's not just, and then people who are also like on the flip side, like as you were saying, like Robert Redford saying that you should have an artist at the table. Mm-hmm. When I've done projects for corporations, it's different. And it's like, they have the artists come in, at least in my case, for a project to help them process something. For instance, one of the big installations I did was about, they asked me to help them with a collective grieving. And it was to somehow incorporate, all of their staff and partners all over the globe process the death of their prominent leader of the company. And so interestingly, like it was something that would not totally make sense to just somebody in a boardroom. That's not what you do every day. Like and so to have an artist help you think about how could you express that? How could we express it together? And then what we ended up producing was they all wrote messages from all over the world, and we incorporated that into the art, and then hung that as a suspended art installation to represent
Beautiful.
their messages of inspiration and hope, but then also with an artistic flow and expression of it, so that you can just look at it every day and be sort of also connected, like they're still connected to this person and what was the vision going on. And I feel like that's something I would think everybody would want to have this in all the tables that you have, to just express that thing that you can't put your finger on. And maybe when you're walking through grief, it's really hard to express it. I think Ethan Hawke is somebody that always talks about how everybody says, do you need art and yes, you do. When someone dies and you need a poem, and how do you express the way that you feel, or you fall in love and you need to tell someone how you feel. Like you always look for an art thing to help you convey that.
It deepens everything. It just includes the whole of your being instead of just the mind and the physical world. It's that mythic and that energetic. It's like New Orleans, the funeral marches with the most incredible music. Like it makes you include, essentially all of who you are and all of what life is. And I just think you can't, that's essential. You can't let that go missing. Right.
And then when you look back on all the civilizations before us, we always look at the art and always revere and wonder what they were going through. But the art is what we get so excited about when we uncover a piece of, history. We're always looking to what was the art of the time saying, and, what did it feel like? And was it hopeful or beautiful, or what did they have to say? And I don't know. I think that's really interesting. We're not like looking for the gross national product in the.
No, I mean, a picture is worth 1,000 words, and everything else is worth even more. Like I really believe it, and who was it? Was it Winston Churchill? I may have gotten this wrong. It might have been another guy, but that during World War II, right when they had that special force, it was that went to get save all the art from the Nazis. They'd sneak into the museums and steal the art, and someone asked him, why do you bother to do that? And he said, well, if not for the art, then why are we even fighting wars? So, I mean, I feel like we know this, or at least we should know this, like based on all those kinds of things. But I think people have this weird, like, you're either an artist or you're an engineer or a teacher or you're something else. But the bottom line is we are all artists. In fact, I think I did a poster. I'm going to be doing one that's about the fact that, like, everything, if everything you do can be considered an art. And if you consider it an art, even, just cooking or
art of saving lives,
day-to-day stuff can be done artistically, can be done with beauty and grace as a part of it. Right.
It's just intent, right? It's putting, your whole intent into it. So like if you're a doctor and that's an art, or you're a mathematician and you solve things, it's all,
everybody's an artist. Everybody should be.
And I think there's a thing I do called ideation, where it's like a brainstorm for companies, and I'm about to go do another one. And what they bring me to these ideations, not because I'm a great creative per se. They bring me as the catalyst to get everyone else to think out of the box. So I'm really there to just shake it up and try to help each person get out their ideas. Because for me, I'm not coming in as the expert of what their company needs to solve. I don't know their business better than they do. My only job is to coax them into thinking in a way that they don't normally, when they're sitting there, working hard and focused on something. Sometimes when you're staring at the brick wall, you just can't solve it no matter how brilliant you are. And so I come in as left field sideshow, crazy person to shake it up, asking different questions, maybe all the way to the bizarre, because then you can come back to the middle to find your answer. But I'm going to go out into left field, and I'm going to go way over here and just probably play with you, make you draw, maybe sing a song, act ridiculous.
Yeah.
These are my specialties.
Yeah, no, I love it. And you do the
And
and the cool thing about that, and I realize that because I used to work in industry in Silicon Valley, a chip manufacturing company. I was running around
yeah,
doing all this stuff and helping sales and technical stuff but I was always that person because I'm naturally a shaman, right? I was that person that would think everybody at the table be trying to solve this problem, right? And they're all doing it in the way that they know. And then I go, but what about this way? Has anyone ever thought of going from this angle? And that was like, it was huge. It like solved
right.
problems. And I mean, it just, it doesn't get acknowledged enough, I don't think, because it's too outside the box and it makes everybody who's in the box feel a little bit like but
and
it's
like
everything.
I'm kind of there as art friend to hold your hand and remind you that you're just as creative. You just have been focused
Right.
over here for a really long time. So just, you have all the goods. You just need to let it out in a different way. And so
Cool.
I'm just there to encourage the creativity and let it come out, because
Yeah.
I think often if you're in a different line of work, you just don't exercise that muscle.
Yeah, I'll tell you, anyone that would have an opportunity to invite you to any meeting would be truly blessed. I mean, I could tell you are, and I know you're really humble, and I know and that's what makes it so powerful, in my opinion, right? It's not about your ego. It's not about like being awesome, seen as awesome and special per se, but boy, you really bring it. And I hope for the world's sake and for everybody's sake that they get you at their table or anywhere. I swear, anywhere.
That's so kind. Thank you. I just feel like it's an honor to, help people find the channel. I'm not trying to be better than anybody else. I just love playing in it. And if I can get more people in the river, then come on in, because it's a big, crazy river, and everyone should get in and give it a try. I have a funny little dream that I thought I would share with you if you're up for it. Like,
absolutely.
And I think I had it as a vision when you and I did a journeying session once. So for those of you listening, if you don't know, journeying is more or less meditation, but Shaman Jon will shake the rattle in a certain tempo. And for me, it sends me off into visionary mode where I'm having a waking dream. And there's a particular one that I had that I think is really fun for what we're talking about today. And the quick dream is that I'm an ocelot tracking through this dense jungle, and it's very lush, and there's just, tons of plants, and it's just overflowing with all kinds of abundance. And then I come to the roaring river, and I'm getting a drink of water, and I realize that on the other side of the river is this massive desert, and then all the plants and creatures are getting no water. And I don't understand how there's so much water and there's so much abundance over here, but how come the other side doesn't have any? And so I guess ocelots in my mind are serious, because I'm thinking, well, what can I possibly do? I'm just an ocelot. I don't know if I'm going to be able to change this. But then the ocelot decides to do this crazy dance, like a rain dance, like that is never done before, but just like wacky. And the sky laughs and pours rain on the other side. And all the creatures are jumping up and down and excited. So to celebrate, the ocelot decides to get in a raft and get everybody in and go riding down the river. And this giant cactus jumps in, and the ocelot says, "Oh no, not you." And then the sky says, "The cactus always gets in the raft." And so the cactus has to stay in the raft. So then they go down the river with cactus and all. And that's the dream. And every time I get into any situation, I think about the cactus always gets in the raft. I mean, you do not get 100% free and floaty anything. There's always going to be conflict. And every time you approach anything, there's always going to be a cactus. And now I don't rage against the cactus, because I know it's going to get into any project, any situation. And so let's say you're struggling with a project, at least you can say, well, that's the cactus, but it's going to get in here anyway, and I'm just going to work with it. So these guys in their river raft had to figure out how to keep patching the holes or whatever they did to continue on down the river.
Right.
But that to me is such a really fun
That's amazing.
metaphor to help you always know that it's yin and yang, and it's everything.
There's
And
always contrast, and without
yeah,
a little pain, there couldn't be pleasure. So
exactly.
yeah, there's always got to be the cactus or the thorn, the rose or whatever. That
That's
is
one of
so
my favorites.
that's brilliant. Oh yeah, I mean, absolutely brilliant, right? And such a good lesson.
Well,
Such
and it's
precious.
also just to say that we're all these parts, you know, like some we're serious, but then we're also funny, and we're, you know, creative, and we're, you know, logical. So uh,
Yeah,
just know that everybody has all the parts, and you just have to allow yourself to, you know, maybe try it out a little more. Maybe if you haven't been feeling super creative, or you don't think that you are, just know you are. It exists within you. It's just a matter of, are you willing to open that door and just give it a try?
yeah. It's like shadow work, right? I mean,
Yeah,
there's positive shadow, whatever, negative shadow. Embrace all the parts so that you're not sending a signal by resisting them that then is
right,
manifesting, more of that. And so,
right.
you teach people to, that's just like a huge part of the work, the journey, the healing journey of coming into your freedom and power, and being a co-creator. Like I say, like a kid, I always use the analogy, and like probably before I even met you was using this analogy of the whole purpose of life is like children playing in the sandbox together or playing in a theater, right? Where
Yeah,
it's not this serious thing where you're trying to climb this ladder to get to the next planet or whatever, the next,
yeah.
heaven or something. It's like, this is it. And you can
I
make it what you want to.
Yeah, I think it's the great adventure. We drew the good straw. We're on the planet. We get a chance to play. It's this weird, crazy theater, and I'm sure it's full of
Yeah.
I probably some of the most fascinating things in, who knows, in the universe. But I feel like if you got a ticket to this planet, that you should try and have as much fun as possible, because it's not going to be a long ride as far as we know. And you
Yeah.
might as
You're
well
right.
enjoy as many corners of the world as you can. And that's kind of what I talk to my son about, and then also kids when I'm working with them on things like the show. It's just like, guys, remember, this is your soul journey, and you get to decide how it looks and where you're going to navigate. You're going to probably take some bad roads once in a while,
Yeah.
as everyone
No,
does.
it's true. And no matter what happens, what's happening around you, I always, the tragedies that happen in the world that are on an epic scale, like war or famine or these types of things. And you'll notice, if you're looking, that the children, they'll cry for a while, they'll be hurt, they process that, the pain, but man, the instinct immediately becomes to start playing and joking and laughing again. So you'll see these clips, there'll be some kid in the background playing with a stick, and you're going,
It's
wow.
amazing. Yeah.
Oh,
And then the adults will be, some of them will decide to be the cook in the community, and they'll still bring some joy, some tiny piece of joy in a terrible situation, and decide, okay, well, I'm going to be this. I'll be the
yeah,
cook, or I'll be a musician, or, you know, I'll create something that we can all share in whatever version we get. You know.
yeah, it's such our natural instinct. and
Yeah.
and yeah, that's, so what's next for you? What's
Well,
happening? What's coming? What do you want to have happen?
I mean, this has been a wild patch of time for all kinds of people. And so,
Mhm.
of course, there's, as always, many unknowns in the world.
Sure.
So, for me to continue making, one of the things that has been going on for me is that I did a bunch of stuff for the Dream show, and then I kind of take a self-imposed break for a minute or two to just kind of reset and see what's next, because that is a long process. Putting together a show is, you know, you can't really put a date on that. That could be 15 years, 20 years. Who really knows how long it takes before something hatches? And
Right.
so, in the meantime, I started doing a lot of music. I would say, opening up the channel, I just sort of started pouring out new music, and really honestly, a couple months ago, I thought, well, do I have anything left in that arena? Maybe I'm got it done musically.
No,
Maybe I don't have anything left.
didn't you
And
say you were
then
writing
I
a
just,
symphony or something,
yeah,
like an actual?
I just sat down and recorded without thinking and without trying, and pumped out I guess it's maybe a concerto, but I call it a symphony. And I did it every day for multiple days, and the whole thing just spilled out in order. And I mean, I'll need to go in and tweak it and make it better,
Yeah,
but it felt so easy and
I
fun,
can't
and
wait
just
to
kind of
hear
came
it.
pouring out. And so that's one thing I'm working on. And in the meantime, I'm always doing projects for people that are, uh, commissioned in all different forms, whether it's the ideation work or paintings and
Mhm.
projects. So that's where my focus is. And at some point, I'll come back to, okay, what's next for the dream show? Once I've had a little respite. Sometimes I have to work in spurts. Like I had a big push and did a big thing in August for
Mhm.
Dream, and performed the finale track on stage in New York, and with a group of amazing singers. And it
Wow.
was phenomenal. And it felt unbelievable to have people performing this song that I made and to be part of it. It was incredible. But it's sort of like running a marathon where you kind of have, I mean, I say that not having run a marathon, but you kind of, after the
I have,
marathon,
I have. When I was
you
a kid,
finish
it's
the
crazy.
big thing, and then you just kind of have a big void after, because you put so much into
Right.
this thing, and then you feel like
Well, that's good. That
kind of
speaks to
exhausted, and
feeding
just,
yourself.
yeah,
It's important, right? I think people need to also understand that there are cycles and there are uptime, downtime. Time. As you know, shamanically, time is not fixed and linear for us. We have this concept that time works for us, not against us, right? So if things take longer, it's meant to be, and it's perfect, it's synchronistic. And if they um, get done quicker, that's fine too. But it's like, that's the thing, right? It's like, honor and know that time is working for you, and take the time you need, take the rest you need. There's no rush, right? There's no judge, there's no scorekeeper. Be allowing of everything and anything, and don't push against it.
I think a great thing about being an artist is you do get better with age, and you have more depth. And so it's interesting. I read a lot of things online about ageism and people being frustrated, like let's say on LinkedIn or something.
Right.
But the thing is, as an artist, I don't experience that in the same way. I'm not bragging about that. What I'm saying is people don't really care how old I am, because they're looking for this expression that I'm going to make for them. And so they're not judging me necessarily by age. I think they would prefer I have a lot of experience, because they want the depth of that to come through when I make them something. So
Mm.
that's a great thing about being an artist. It's not an easy living, but it's definitely that's one of the great benefits, is to go ahead and get better with age. And just, again, time is on your side as an artist, because your work is so much better um, the more life experience you have. So
Yeah, and the more you wait for the inspiration, right? Like,
mhm.
instead of pushing, you open up, you're still, you're quiet, just like the symphony you just wrote.
Right.
It came out of left field. You didn't know you were going to
I
do it, but because you
I
were
feel
sitting
like the universe likes to play with me in that way. It's only when I give up and decide, I'm not going to do this anymore, that it delivers something to almost mock me in a fun way.
there. Right,
Like, oh
right.
yeah, well, guess what? Here's a symphony. What are you
Oh
going to do
yeah,
with
yeah,
that? And I'm just like, I just said I was finished right now. I'm taking a breather. But
yeah.
it's a fun, sort of playful relationship I have with the universe, because at those moments when I think I need to put it down, or I'm just going to stop, or maybe you want to burn it in a dumpster fire because you're like, I'm done with this. And that happens too. That can happen for people too.
Right.
You
But
get
that's like
there.
the unattachment stuff, right?
Yeah.
That's what's beautiful. Everything you're saying speaks to this manifestation process, where the final step is to let it go. You don't care anymore. You don't need it anymore. I don't need to move
Right.
anymore. I like it where I am. It's this weird paradox, but I have to teach my clients this all the time. Like,
Yeah.
if you really want something, yeah, sure, ask for it, send it out. do all that stuff. But then at some point, you got to be really good right where you are for that to find you. And then it comes.
And it's not until the moment, right, that you're not attached and that you truly don't have an agenda for it, and you don't try to map out the future of it, which we all fall into that trap because, you so want, like if someone asks me, what do you want your show to do? I'm like, well, I'd love it to be on Broadway someday. But then if I get focused on Broadway,
all of a sudden it's an agenda.
I just get completely overwhelmed by the ocean of how far I have to go to get there. But if you didn't have me assign a goal like Broadway, not that you shouldn't have goals, it's just, if I wasn't focused on Broadway, I would just make better music and create deeper characters. And so that's what I try to play in the one step in front of the other space more often than not, and not be attached to where it's going.
Right.
It makes for much better work when I'm present and enjoying the process. Well, and plus, I don't want it to end because it's so fun to just play.
Right. Well, I think that's wonderful. And, there's just so much more. I hope people reach out to you. Find you on your website, contact you, talk to you more about this. I hope we can do this again and talk about, what finds you next and where we are next. Let's plan that. Let's do this again in a few months and just see, right? And just, it just makes me smile just talking to you all the time, thinking about these things, knowing that we can access that part of us anytime, anywhere, no attachment, no agenda. I love it. And I can't thank you enough for coming on with me. I mean,
thank you.
You're the best. And
may I offer a quick plug to your services?
Sure.
I would just say that you and I have known each other almost 20 years, I think. And for me, what I think is so extraordinary about what you're able to provide is that you certainly don't, you hold space for people in such a way that I find my best clarity when I'm talking with you. And I think it's such a gift to be able to have a space where it's almost like all the clutter gets pushed away. And if I sit with you and we have thoughts together, I find my best moments of clarity in just having that time to like really focus and know that someone's got the universe for me, holding it for a second so I can think. And then it's an incredible thing to do. So if you would like to find some clarity in your life, I feel like you're a great person to talk to. So I really appreciate it.
Thank you. I really appreciate it. And hey, I hope you have a beautiful rest of your day. And I'll look forward to talking to you again soon.
That sounds great. Thank you so much. This was a blast.
Absolutely. Thank you.